don't have that interest. We have a sleeping giant amongst us in our cities that's not really aware yet of the importance of politics, of the importance of government. And that's where we come in at. We have to enlighten them and wake them up. We have to go out and make it known that it's very important that we participate in the forums and the meetings concerning political awareness. Also, our host for this reception, I'm just the imam who's supposed to be opening up. I'm really talking too long. Our host for this reception is our own councilman, Quadir Bilal Beasley. He's the councilman at large in Irvington, New Jersey. We are very proud of him. He started out as a councilman of the ward, and now he is the councilman at large in the city of Irvington. And we think he has a very bright future in the field of politics. There are some more dignitaries up here with us. Our imam from Nevada, Imam Ramadan, he's with us also. And we have another councilman from East Orange, Muslim councilman, Brother Jimmy Salam. We're happy to have him with us. And we have a city councilman here from Nevada also. I don't remember his name. John Rose? Yes, Brother John Rose is a city councilman from Las Vegas, Nevada. Praise be to Allah. So with those few acknowledgments, I wanted to officially open the reception with the opening chapter of Quran called Al-Fatiha. It is a prayer, a perfect prayer. It gives us knowledge of God and his attributes, and it teaches us our relationship with God as human beings. So I think that it is most appropriate to read this surah first in Arabic, and then we will translate it in the English rendering for the benefit of those who cannot understand Arabic. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. With the name Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. All the praise and the thanks be to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds, the most merciful, the most compassionate, the only owner and the only ruling judge of the day of repentance, the day of resurrection. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help for each and everything. Guide us to the straight way, the way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace, not the way of those who earn your anger, such as nor of those who went astray. Amen. So with that, I'm going to ask Imam Ramadan from Nevada to come and make some comments concerning the American Muslim Council, to explain to us what that is, and then our brother Quadir Bilal. Assalamu alaikum.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين مبارك. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to thank Imam Ali Muslim for the opportunity for us to be here with you today in the city of Newark, and our very esteemed, also our Councilman Bilal Beasley, also another member of the AMC Advisory Board, newly appointed AMC Advisory Board member who's one of your own, Councilman Jimmy Salam, And also we have another AMC Advisory Board member here, Brother Qasim, if you just raise your hand. Qasim Rashad from Philadelphia came down to be here with us. And obviously we appreciate the presence again of your congressman, and because we don't have a congressman of our own ethnic extract in Nevada, we have to claim him also, our congressman, Congressman Payne, who seems to be near and dear here to this Muslim community. And it's indeed a blessing for all of us to have this opportunity, and a very measurable blessing for you, the Muslims here, to have someone from your own community, someone who identifies with your concerns and needs as people and as Muslims. Is very excellent, and we hope this community continues to work with Congressman Payne in working on agendas that will address the human concern, as our leader, Imam Mohammed, has been so capable in guiding us towards. Again, I appreciate the members of AMC's advisory boards for being here. Just as I was leaving Las Vegas, for some reason or another, I brought with me a West Coast cold just to intrigue you all with the difficulties of being out west. And it kind of reminded me of the man who was going to speak, and when he got to speak, he realized that he had dentures and he had left them at home. And he realized he had some difficulty speaking, so he turned to the person who was going to introduce to him. He would have said, well, Brother Imam Ali Muslim, I left my dentures at home and I won't be able to speak. And they said, the guy who was introducing him said, well, here, I have a set of dentures in my pocket. Why don't you try these? And so the guy turned and he gave him one set of dentures and he put them in. He said, no, those are too loose. I can't speak with those. He said, well, try this other pair. And he gave him another pair. He said, no, those are too tight. I can't speak. He said, well, look, I have one more pair of dentures. Now, these don't have to work for you, because if you don't, you have a problem. So he gave him this one. He said, oh, those fit perfectly. You must be the town dentist. He said, no, I'm the undertaker, but you can go ahead and talk about what you were going to say. So I hope my voice won't fail me. I won't be like the man who was absent of the dentures. Briefly about the American Muslim Council, there is a need and a desire for the American Muslim Council to see clearly what we hope to be greater participation from the Association of Imam Mohammed. As a matter of fact, we see the American Muslim Council increasingly fighting uphill in battles that it will not overcome unless we have the type of participation of people like Councilman Beasley, Councilman Salam, Qasim Rashad, and the many others of you here who we hope will become a part of that. The reason being is that American Muslim Council will be affected by the influence of Imam Mohammed based on our participation, based on our interaction. And when we're interacting and when we're associating with them, they're going to be more effective in at least addressing the agenda of human concerns. Obviously, we need for American Muslim Council to have a relationship with Congressman Payne. But quite frankly, the most capable persons of addressing concerns of African American and Muslim Americans and human persons in this country happen to be us. We happen to be very capable for that because of our experience. So we encourage the many of you to lend an ear to what we are now directing American Muslim Council towards. I'm now currently the Vice President of AMC. We're anticipating bringing another person from the Association of Imam Mohammed onto the Board of Directors. We mentioned Brother Qasim and Councilman Jimmy Salam as being advisory board members. I think you here with your fine work with the Muslim Voters League, you're going to have more persons on the board, on the advisory board. We were just in a meeting in New York earlier this morning. They have UMPAC, the United Muslim Political Action Committee. They can learn from what you're doing here in Newark or in New Jersey. Philadelphia, they have IMPACT, the Muslim Political Action Committee there. They're doing very fine work. So all of you are doing very good work. We need to know about it. AMC can benefit from that. We need to know what's happening at the local communities because, quite frankly, my brothers and sisters and people, including the congressman, this is where the battle is being fought at. See, the congressman works in Washington, D.C., but he knows he gets elected right here in Newark, New Jersey. And everybody knows the politics of numbers. Quite frankly, I'm not sure about some of those guys who are in the Senate and in the Congress, but I think all of them can count to 20 without taking their shoes off. So when we register to vote, that makes an impact on the thinking of Congressman Payne, who we like to think is our friend and our ally. But that makes an impact on Jesse Helms, Strom Thurmond, Bob Dole, Ted Kennedy, and a whole host of persons. That type of focus from the grassroots level of persons like yourself, those who associate with Imam Mohammed, and other Muslims who have concerns that are legitimate and they may not have the know-how of addressing those concerns. So again, we appreciate this opportunity to share these few moments with you. We pray to Allah that the Muslim League of Voters continues in its very fine work. If you're not involved with the Muslim League of Voters, get involved. If you're not involved with AMC, get involved. We have to be registered to vote. We have to participate. Some persons will say voting in politics is haram. It's haram until your power gets turned off. Then you're going to call somebody who can deal with those concerns. So, Brother Imam, thank you very much for this opportunity. Councilman Bilal, for your fine work, and all of you here. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. The name of Allah, the merciful and merciful, peace and blessings be upon His servant. I bear witness that none deserves to be served except Allah. I bear witness that Mohammed ibn Abdullah is a slave servant. I'd like to greet you in the best of greetings again of Assalamu alaikum. It's certainly my pleasure to be a part of this distinguished opportunity to come together and address our Muslims and constituents, members of our Ummah, and also those who are visiting with us. It is certainly an additional benefit to have the opportunity to support the efforts of Masjid Mohammed Newark in bringing to the community our various forms of community life, be it dealing with the workshop that's scheduled for later on this afternoon, and the educational banquet, which was held last night, and of course, bringing to this area Imam W.D. Mohammed to address our broader community. This particular reception gives us an opportunity to do some very significant things. And one, in talking with Imam Ramadan over the past year, and the opportunity that he was visiting this area to attend the lecture of Imam W.D. Muhammad tomorrow. We talked about the opportunity of really inviting our congressman, who is very active, not only in our area, but he's very much active in the CBC, known as Congressional Black Caucus, in Washington, D.C. And that opportunity to bring Congressman Payne, as Imam Ramadan indicated, he's considered a number of people's congressmen because he's one of the few African-American congressmen and the first in New Jersey. So he's embraced by many people from all over the United States. And his active role in the Congressional Black Caucus, and it's my understanding that it's very, very likely that he will become the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus. Given that type of rise to national status, knowing that national leadership has a lot to do with the policies of the country, the resources of the country, and the lobbying that's very important, that to take the opportunity at this particular reception was to particularly get Imam W.D. Muhammad, Imam Ramadan, and Congressman Payne to meet and to share a few words with each other, so that for future type of networking, it would be very, very beneficial, toward our community and toward the general community. So it's definitely a pleasure, and there's a great benefit. I think that the fact that many of you who took the time to come out this afternoon really give us the type of encouragement to keep doing the work that's so important in our community. And basically, speaking from the type of activity in our community, particularly in this general area, what we call Essex County, the Muslim League of Voters has been very active. We've started taking our lead from Imam W.D. Muhammad and those Muslims in the Chicago area back during, I think, about 1985, when the late Mayor Howard Washington in Chicago was making his effort to become the first African-American elected in Chicago. And what formed in that particular area was the formulation of a group called the Muslim League of Voters. And with the effort put forth by many of the citizens in that community who had made an attempt to get Mayor Howard Washington elected, might have failed the first time, but it built up a momentum. And Imam W.D. Muhammad and the Muslims in that area seen a common cause, seen in Mayor Washington, or candidate at that time, a common ground, something worthy of their support. And as a combination of the base that Mayor Washington had, the success of that second attempt was pretty much so with the involvement of the Muslim community. And we were inspired in this particular area by the formation of the Muslim League of Voters. So during that time, we had first organized our effort to learn more about how government serves the people. And as all of us, I'm sure, remember, we were encouraged early on in Imam W.D. Muhammad's leadership to get into the mainstream. A lot of the committees and everything that was formed at that time was to really give us more understanding of parliamentary procedures, how we would network and organize and become more effective. And a lot of us remember Ways and Means Committee, the Sikh Committee. A lot of them sound like congressional committees as we begin to get more knowledgeable on how government serves the people. And from that point, we called it the Muslim League of New Jersey. However, we found ourselves trying to do a little of everything. Some of us wanted to do cultural things. Some of us wanted to do economic things. And we found ourselves doing much of everything but a little of no thing. And we decided about 3 years ago that we would reactivate the Muslim League of Voters. And we would concentrate and commit our effort to political awareness and political action. And being encouraged from time to time from Imam W.D. Muhammad, I would say that over that 3-year period, our activities have produced elected officials in various parts of New Jersey. I give certainly credit first to Allah, to the activities that have built a base in our community. And what I mean by base, we were always encouraged to get involved with the PTA, the block associations, to register to vote, to do all of those things, and get involved in whatever was our interest. And the organization of the MLV and the support that I was given in 1988 to become elected in the township of Irvington was because of the small base that we had developed. Having committed ourselves to this political awareness, we decided that we was going to make and take the time and do some of the basic things. And that is, number one, make sure that everyone who's eligible to vote, that we register them, particularly if they move from one location to another. When Muslims became of age, that we would do that. The other would be that we would help elect people to office that we share a common bond in. And as a result of our activity, we stand here today and we are able to say that we have Councilman Jimmy Simone from East Orange, who we assisted and guided his campaign in 1993. We also had Sister Fahima El-Amin, who many of you might know, who was elected in the city of Plainfield, and who at one time was the president of their council. And as a result of being elected, we in turn empower our community by appointing people to the various boards. We have a number of Muslims who are liaisons. I see Imam Haziz from Jersey City, who I think in the last year or two has been appointed and recommended by the Muslim community to become the liaison to the mayor's office. And there's a number of other Muslims who are on the Board of Adjustment and who are seeking office, be it councilmen or running as district leaders. Attending the League of Municipalities for New Jersey, I met a number of other brothers from Camden, parts of New Jersey. Matter of fact, Brother Clean Shabazz, who's been in the Atlantic City area for years, made an effort to run for mayor of that particular city just this year, and was given a very good recognition, short of winning, but basically recognized in being a potential candidate in the future. So it's the work that's been inspiring us by Imam W. Muhammad, who has set that example in the Muslim League of Voters, that they established that encouraged us to do what we're doing here. And that's basically what my development has been. I thank Allah for that kind of support. And again, today brings us together to at least hear from one person, I believe, that represents people from the 10th Congressional District in New Jersey specifically, but I believe people of common support for justice, freedom, and equality, be it the international issues, be it the national issues, that he's with us today. And as I stated, one of the very important things that we're attempting to do before this weekend is out, with the assistance and the unhesitating response of Imam Ali Muslim, is to bring Congressman Payne, Imam Ramadan, Vice President of the AMC, and Imam W.D. Mohammed together. And inshallah, hopefully we will accomplish that before this weekend is over. It is certainly my pleasure at this time to relate and bring to you someone who's more than a congressman to our community, someone who has deep roots, who has earned through work, through laboring in the areas of health, education, and welfare in our community, who has started out, I wouldn't say started out, but had developed his professional career as an executive for the Prudential Insurance Company, educator. He was executive of the YMCA. And I'd just like to note that when Congressman Payne was executive of the YMCA, it was at some of the social affairs that I first met my wife, Sister Basima. And we've been married for more than 30 years this year. And we always relate that, you know, Congressman Payne and the type of social affairs he gave, they were strict. But I always remind him that's where I first, you know, met my wife. Coming up into the political area, Congressman Donald M. Payne is the first African-American congressman elected from New Jersey in 1988. He started as a grassroots district leader, became a Essex County freeholder, held an executive position on the board. I think it was the first form of that board and that type of government in Essex County. He was also elected as the Newark City Councilman in the South Ward. And in 1988, as I stated, he was elected our first congressman. It is certainly my pleasure to bring before you comment Congressman Donald M. Payne from the Congressional District, the 10th District of New Jersey. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon to say a few words to my good friend, all of the folks up here, Imam Ali Muslim, who has really come into our community and has been a real beacon of light and hope and leadership. And you know, we need that here in our area more than we've ever needed it before, to allow Beasley, the councilman, who has done an outstanding job, and he too is moving on up from district leader to ward councilman to councilman at large, and I see him continuing his move on up the ladder. As he indicated, I do remember him when he was just a youngster, and some of the others out there when we used to come to First of Jones Street Y, you know, between the younger people you wouldn't know, but it was a Y up there, just a small storefront building, and that's where we did most of our work, and it was between Springfield Avenue and South Orange Avenue. And that was supposed to be a tough, rough area at the time. I was teaching at then Southside High School, which, as you know, we changed the name to Malcolm X Shabazz High School, and I was coaching track and football and doing a little boxing, showed Larry a few things. And we had many of the young people. Matter of fact, Larry's brother Des was even a better athlete than Larry. If you see Larry, tell him about Des. And I tell Mr. Payne that Des was a better athlete. He'll agree. This goes way back 20, 30 years ago. But I think that people who remember where they come from never forget that. And that's the only way to be successful, to know where you come from. Therefore, you know where you want to go, but you really know that the local scene is really what's important. And so many of our young leaders today came up through our little storefront on Jones Street. Mr. Lamar was my mentor there, and he had a saying of deeds, not words. That's all he said, deeds, not words. I kind of remember that because people talk up a whole lot of stuff, but it's what you deliver what is important. You know, you can do a lot of rapping, but the deliverance is what's important. And so, to Imam Ramadan and to Councilman Rhodes, our visitor from Las Vegas, very happy to have you here. To our local councilman, East Orange, Councilman Sloan. I had the opportunity to meet him when I addressed the American Muslim Council in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago. Had the privilege of being their guest speaker for their evening program because I always felt that the American Muslim Council and the Muslim League of Voters and the whole movement was very important to be involved and have a tremendous amount of respect for what you've achieved, but also for what your potential is in the future. And I, too, look forward to seeing Imam Mohammed this evening or this weekend before he returns back. It's a pleasure to be here, and as it's been indicated, you know, the winds of change is coming all around us, and we're going to have to, as a people, get ourselves together. We're going to have to really come together as a people and decide where it is we want to go and what we need to do to get there. Because you've got some mean-spirited people who've taken over high places, and the only difference now is they were always, you know, the difference between mean-spirited, you know, some people just mean. I used to teach, there's just some, you could find a little 3-year-old that's just mean, just born mean. And they're all right because they're going to come out of it. But when you get someone who's mean-spirited, they're really not born mean. What they do, they stay up late at night trying to figure out how they can be mean. See, that's the difference. They have a mean spirit. They're usually pretty nice people. But they stay up and they figure out, how am I going to mess these people up? How am I going to take that away? What can I do to damage them? That's a mean-spirited person. And those are the dangerous people because they work at it and they create it, and they develop it, they build on meanness. And so that's what you're seeing today in the Congress, people like Bob Dole and Strom Thurmond and Senator Helms, Jesse Helms, Newt Gingrich, and you haven't seen them all. These are just the headliners. You know, they're just the main event. I mean, they got some 4-rounders down there and some 6-rounders that make them look bad. It's just they haven't been able to get up to the top. I mean, they wait till they get their time on the tube. I'm telling you, there's a guy named Dick Armey from Texas, and a fellow named Burton from Indiana. A guy named Walker from Pennsylvania. You ain't seen nothing yet. I'm telling you, I'm with them every day. There's some mean men down there, and so we're going to have to really kind of get ourselves together. We do best when we're in crisis. We'll be able to make out all right, but it's going to take a lot of concentrated effort of all of us coming together and working together, us embracing ourselves rather than turning on ourselves, finding out what we have in common so that we can put the commonality together. And then those things that are more difficult to deal with, let's deal with them last. As a matter of fact, you can take an example of what's happening in the Middle East. They're dealing with the relatively easy things, even though there's a lot of conflict. The difficult things, what's going to happen to Jerusalem, you know, they don't even deal with that yet. They'll deal with that at the end of the process. So we need to deal with things that have commonality. A lot of things, too, we're going to have to educate our people because some things sound simplistic. You know, you'll hear your grandparents talk about, well, we ought to have prayer in school. You know, when we had prayer in school, things were all right. Kids didn't fight in school. Well, that's right. You know, I wish that there could be prayer, but then what kind of prayer will it be? See, nobody's talking about that. But those guys, those mean-spirited guys, they know a divisive thing. They say, yeah, let's do prayer in school. Let's put it back in. Let's have a constitutional amendment. And we'd even have a hard time with a lot of our Christian people saying, well, you know, this prayer in school thing, you know, sounds good that everyone starts meditating, but what kind of meditation is? What happens to a Hindu kid? Is the prayer offensive to him? How about a Muslim child or a Jewish kid? Is it going to be a Protestant prayer or a Catholic prayer? That's when it gets difficult. But when I go and vote against prayer in school, people are going to, you know, I'm going to be tarred and feathered when I walk into churches. But it's the same way with a lot of tough votes. I voted against sending our troops to the Persian Gulf because there was no reason for that. That was just over some oil. But I supported the sending of our people into Somalia to feed the people, or into Haiti to restore a man who was elected president. And I also voted against condemning Khalil Mohammed. Although I did not believe in what he said, I thought that what he said was offensive to me also. But I felt that people have a right to say what, that's a First Amendment right. And even though it is very offensive and divisive and really leading to no place to go, I voted no on the House floor of condemning him because I felt he had a right to say whatever he wanted to say. And since we hadn't taken any other speeches up in the Congress, I didn't think we should start with his. Matter of fact, I thought they spent too much time on that subject anyway. We had some real problems. I said, you know, it's been around a long time. So what? We didn't take up David Duke's speech when he called us a whole lot of bad names. We never took up a speech of Bilbo or Talmadge in the old days. So why do we start in 1993 doing speeches? How many speeches we going to do? Should we do it every day? So you take a stand and you get beat up in certain communities, but I think you have to stand for something. If you don't stand for anything, then you know, what purpose do you have? And so I think we have to continue to try to make the best judgment, the best calls that we can do. We have to try to keep our people in mind when we make our decisions, because you can make a lot of easy choices and let everybody love you, you see, but we need to have someone to articulate what black people are talking about. And as it's been indicated, I just returned 3 days ago about the over 1 billion Muslims in the world. I just returned from Nigeria and Niger and Benin. They're two small francophone countries in West Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, which used to be Ivory Coast. It says it in French now. It sounds like a different name, but when you hear somebody say Cote d'Ivoire, just go, you mean Ivory Coast, you know French. It's just backwards, you know. And Ghana, and in all of those countries, a very large Muslim. As a matter of fact, the two presidential candidates in Nigeria were both Muslim. MKO Abiola, who actually won the election, and I did meet with the General Bachi, who aborted the election. I told him, you know, they come up with some pretty creative stuff. You know, the election had been ended, it was over, and Abacha, Abiola, who was one of the two candidates, was winning in all of the states in Nigeria. So they just stopped counting. They said, let's stop counting. So I said, how do you stop counting? Well, we're aborting this election. I mean, that's terminology. How you abort an election? Just stop it. So, you know, I met with General Abachi a couple of days ago. I said, how do you just take a person out of presidency? He said, well, he didn't win. He didn't win. What do you mean he didn't win? He was leading, you know, he led in every single part of the whole country, Christian area, Muslim area, agnostics. Well, he he didn't, we didn't finish the counting, so therefore he didn't win. Oh, you guys are pretty creative, man. I said, like, this is like a race, guys way up 20 yards ahead of you, you call the race off, let's start again. That's just what they did. And so we did get a chance to, not only did they take the election, he said, got up and made a speech, said, I won the election, I should be president. So they came up, put him in jail, said, it's a law against being an imposter and saying you're president. And so Abiola's in jail because he just said, I think I won the election and I ought to be the president. He's in jail for treason. They said, treason? And treason, in Nigeria, treason is death if you get convicted of treason. So we really have a lot of work to do in our diaspora to try to bring our people around to seeing that when they lead a country with oils and diamonds, and such tremendous wealth, and certain people live the high life, but the majority of people live in abject poverty, and the men with the barrel of the gun run the country, that's not right. And I've been to Rwanda, where the whole question between the Hutus and the Tutsis was just out of control, and something that really was fostered by colonial powers, the Germans first, the Belgians then, the French, keeping the 15% Tutsis who came from Ethiopia to that area, to the 85% Hutus who were smaller, shorter people, the Bantu people, and they just controlled them for forever because the colonial powers institutionalized this 15%. It's the old divide and conquer. You see, you have a minority over the majority, and that makes it easy for the colonial power. They let them argue about it. And so there are a number of problems. They can all be solved if we pull together. There is tremendous potential throughout the world because we have people of African descent everywhere. Brazil, you think there's some black people in the United States. You ain't seen nothing yet until you go down to Brazil. Brazil's got maybe 5 times more black people than we got in this country. I mean, they got black people all over the place. It's the majority of people. But they have a thing on the weekends where the military fellas take off their uniforms and they put on plain clothes, and their objective is to see how many street boys they can kill. These are little black kids, and they just kill them, that's all. They just catch them and shoot them and kill them. And so we've been dealing with that. Colombia, Peru, same way. We look at Cuba, and all the folks are talking about, let's keep this embargo and so forth, and the folks in Miami want to go back to Cuba as the new leaders. But Cuba's about 6% black, you don't know that. That's something them guys on the little tubes, it was all right when they were coming in planes and all that other stuff. They started paddling out on tubes. You saw they'll change the policy. Don't let them know. They don't come in anymore because those are the guys from the hills. You have to get way crazy to come out on a little inner tube. Some of them just get inner tube. They're going to paddle to the USA. So they stopped all of that. Every Cuban could come in because those ones that were starting to come over on those little tubes and small little things no larger than this, they were the black people coming from the hills hearing that they could make it to the U.S. They're taking us in, and you see that policy stop too. So that's going to be a country where you have over half of the population, 60% of the population are Afro-Cubans, and that's going to be the struggle down there once democracy comes into play. And so there are a lot of potential around the world. Matter of fact, a little island called Fiji. You go down to Fiji, you think you're broaden market. I mean, Fiji's in the middle of nowhere, like south of 8 hours flight from Hawaii. So it's far, man, in the middle of nowhere. And how they got to Fiji, I don't know. It must be we must have some bad people, man. I'm telling you, because those black folks, and they weren't brought there. They got there in Fiji. I'm telling you. You go downtown, man. I thought it was a guy that owed me some money, man. I said, hey, you join? Man, no, I was born here. I said, sure look like guy that borrowed some money from me about 10 years ago. I was looking for him. I saw a couple of them up in Northern State. I said, man, there you are. Come on, how about my dough, man? And when I get me out, I'll pay you back. But we're all over, I tell you. And if we ever get the diaspora together, we could really be a very powerful people. And that's what I think our goal and objective should be. But once again, it's certainly a pleasure to participate here with you, and I wish you continued success. Thank you very much.
You know, in Islam, when we have something to celebrate, we say, Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
And what that means, Congressman, is that God is most important, the biggest and the greatest. So, I'd like to make a few comments in reference to Imam W.D. Mohammed, the Muslim American spokesman for human salvation. He was scheduled, it was advertised that he was scheduled to be here at this reception. Unfortunately, the Thanksgiving weekend is the weekend that seemed like everybody want to travel. And the flight that he was originally to come out on was overbooked. So therefore, he has to come in on a later flight. He will be here with the help of Allah this evening. For dinner, we will have dinner in this hall this evening at 8 o'clock. He will be here for the dinner. He will not be able to be here for the Halal Business Workshop, but we do have Mrs. Fleeta Burns. I think she's here now from First Fidelity National Bank, representing Jerome Greco, the President of Urban Development, and also our own brother Akbar Salam, who will be making a presentation on the opportunity for investment into halal business. So the workshop will be very meaningful, and the Imam will be here with us this evening for dinner, and Congressman Donald Payne, has agreed to come back and join us for dinner with the Imam. I think that's very nice of him. He was not scheduled to do that. He decided to do that when he found out that the Imam would not be here for the reception. And that's a great an appreciation. We really appreciate that because we know the importance of time and especially a congressman. Very important. So we ask you to join us. I hope you have an invitation. If you do not have an invitation, I'm sure the treasurers have invitations out there at the reception desk. Please be with us for this wonderful dinner. And the purpose of the dinner, Congressman, maybe you might be able to assist us in this area. The purpose of the dinner is a fundraiser for a land site for Imam W.D. Mohammed in New Jersey. And I think that it would be very nice if he was in your district. So our intentions is to raise the funds that we need to accomplish this goal. And we're doing very good. We're about 20% of our goal. We have about 20% of our goal already, which is about $50,000 we have raised. And we have a goal of $150,000. And we hope to do very well tonight. So if you can join us for dinner with a small contribution, we would appreciate it. It's going for a good cause. It's going to bring a good leader to New Jersey. It's going to bring dignity to Newark, more dignity to Newark, more dignity to the state of New Jersey. And we are going to make some tremendous progress for people. And we really have to understand Imam W.D. Mohammed and his work. See, his work is not just he's just not a leader for Muslims. His work is for people. He's a people man. And some of the things that he has done indicate that he's working for people. In fact, he's been working on the ethnicity situation for about 18 years. In fact, he was the first one I heard called us Bilalians as an identity. He said that we should have an identity like other ethnic group of people in America, and he first called us Bilalians. He asked us to accept the term Bilalian as opposed to black folks are Negroes, or colored people, or Black Americans. Then about 4 or 5 years went by. He said, well, the majority of our people is not accepting Bilalians. So then he introduced Warriors. He said, maybe they're like Warriors. It wasn't too, Warriors didn't become too popular. So then he came with African American. And I heard Reverend Jesse Jackson, he embraced it. I heard a few other outstanding leaders and people accepted it. And now it appears, though, that African American, the term African, will become the identity for us as a people. And when I say us, I mean our race. Though still the majority identify as colored people or Negroes. And I think that's something that we need to sit down as leaders and discuss, because to be civilized, we must have an identity as a people. And Imam Mohammed is very concerned about that. He's very concerned about our cultural distinction, our dress. I wear Petrocelli suits because Akbar don't make any. Muhammad doesn't make any. So I have to wear Mr. Brown's suit. But in America, there's free enterprise. We could have our own dress, but that's what culture means, dress. We could have our own dress code, or some people call it a uniform. But it could be a suit. It don't have to be a uniform. It could be a nice cultural distinct dress that we make, that we manufacture, and we have a market. Imam Muhammad is about that. Imam Muhammad is also about establishing business in our neighborhood, our local neighborhoods. A halal business. And halal just simply means permissible business, business that's decent and honorable and have a code of ethics, friend, on a code of ethics. So these are the things that W.D. Muhammad is about. He's not about race bashing. He's about uplifting humanity. In fact, Congressman, this is something that you might want to consider. Imam Muhammad introduced in Atlanta, Georgia, he said that why not make righteousness a law? What's wrong with that? What is righteousness? Belief in God, belief in the prophets, belief in the scriptures, belief in fulfilling contracts, belief in being patient, belief in being steadfast in prayer, spending out, sharing what God has given you. Why not make righteousness a law? Respect for God. Why not make respect for God a law? Have anybody ever entertained that? I think that would be an historical accomplishment in the Congress of the United States of America if we had an outstanding congressman to introduce a bill to make righteousness a law, supported by all the Muslims in America and all the good Christians and all the good Jews and all the good people who believe in God. I think the majority of the people in America believes in God. If this is a Christian nation, I think the foundation of this nation is belief in God. This is what has made America great, and we, the Muslim community, those who identify, support the leadership of Imam W.D. Muhammad, we want to make a healthy contribution to the concept of America. And working with our good people like Congressman Payne and Councilman Bilal, Councilman Salam, I think that we will be able to accomplish this very easily. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, we'd like to close with a dua, Surah Asr. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal Asr. Inna sanil afikus. Illa alladhina amanu wa New Jersey. It's going to bring dignity to Newark, more dignity to Newark.
kind of access to him that we're going to get tomorrow, and I hope you all plan to join us tomorrow at 12 o'clock, will be something that we can feel will be even closer if he's right here in our own hometown, so we look forward to that. Come on, there's many seats right down up front, brothers, sisters, come on in and fill up the seats, and we're going to start the program in a few moments. I know Brother Akbar has an exciting presentation for you, and I know many of you are waiting with bated breath for understanding how we can promote halal businesses right here in our community. After each presentation, we'll have a brief question and answer session. So if you will hold off your questions until the presenter is finished with their presentation, you will have ample time to ask those questions. Before we get started, let me just make one other comment. I don't know how many of you had a chance to join us last night. We had a historic event right here in Newark. The brothers and sisters of the greater Newark community put on a fashion show, but it wasn't a typical fashion show. It was a fashion show featuring modest dress for men and women. The designers all were African American designers right from this community, and they did an outstanding job of modestly showing their talents. The brothers and sisters who modeled those talents were all from this community. It was an event where we had quite a few hundred people here. We had a good time together, and we demonstrated something that we think is very important, and that's the influence or the impact that dress can have on society and the community. And the brothers and sisters and the designers did a fine job of demonstrating their talents to promote modest dress for men and women. And we hope we continue to do that type of thing where we can bring our family closer together and demonstrate the influence and impact that Islam can have on society. At this time, let me bring up our brother. You all know him as the man in charge of Unity Beef, Brother Akbar Salam.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, ashhadu abduhu wa rasuluhu. Before I get started, I want to get comfortable. Take the jacket off. Y'all know me in my white coat, right? Okay. Yes, sir. I appreciate this opportunity to address you on the topic, the business opportunities in the halal industry. But first, I'd like to thank Imam Ali Muslim for hosting such a timely program. And I'd also like to welcome our Dias guest here. How are you? Fine. Assalamu alaikum. Just give me a little minute or two to get wound up here. I think I'll start with the preamble of the New Jersey Muslim Business Association. It says here that it is Allah who has created the heavens and the earth, and sendeth down rain from the skies, and with it bringeth out fruits wherewith to feed you. It is he who has made the ship subject to you, that they may sail through the sea by his command. And the river also hath he made subject to you. Those who rehearse the book of Allah, establish regular prayer, and spend in charity out of what we have provided for them, secretly and openly, hope for a commerce that will never fail. Allah speaks the truth. I want to take this opportunity to thank the supporters who have supported the halal industry and the halal businesses and the many businesses in the Jersey area for the past 20, 30 years. I personally would like to thank the customers that come to Unity Brand Halal and support us in thick and thin. So once again, I thank you. I also greet you again. Assalamu alaikum. Those of you who don't support the businesses in the New Jersey area in Unity Brand Halal, I'd like to also thank you and greet you also. Assalamu alaikum. Because you make us work very hard. Okay. Okay. My presentation is in two parts. The first part, I'm going to deal with some personal information, some background history, and also deal with some of the influences that influenced some of the decisions that we've made over the past 20 to 30 years. In 1967, 7 brothers came together under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we embraced his Do for Self program. We pooled our resources. I think at that time we all contributed $67.50. Is that right, Earl? Okay. And that was the beginning of the Unity Beef Sausage Company, a humble beginning. It's Brother Earl Sadiq, Brother Kaleem Muhammad, Brother Mubarak Shabazz, Brother Jabbar Muhammad, Brother Rajan Nasruddin, Brother Yahya Sharif. And if you're here, please stand. Earl? Okay. Since then, we've gone separate ways, but the spirit still lives on. And our goal was to establish economic dignity for ourselves as well as our community. In 1975, Imam Warathuddin Muhammad, he came into the leadership of the Muslim community, and he introduced different concepts from dust to industry. Also, the Kaaba is the root of our economic orientation. When you establish business, establish it in the natural order of things. These kind of concepts, they had a great influence on myself, on me. He also encouraged us to bring our business practices under the dictates of the Holy Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet. And he challenged us to establish halal. At that time, I had never slaughtered. I was born and raised here in Newark. So I made a decision. I said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring our business practices under the dictates of the Quran and the Sunnah. I'm going to slaughter halal. So I went and got the Quran, I picked up my hadith, and I read how to approach this. The Prophet ﷺ said, when you're going to slaughter, he said, slaughter with excellence. He said, sharpen your knife. So I got my knife, it was a nice-sized knife, and I sharpened. And I sharpened. So my knife was ready. I went out to Chatham, New Jersey, and I met an individual there who owned the slaughterhouse. And he said, well, you can come slaughter here. I said, fine. Keep in mind that I had never slaughtered before. So he said, well, what would you like to slaughter? I said, well, maybe a steer and a couple of lambs. He said, well, you go in that room over there, and I'll send the beef out. Okay. So I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, here's a 2,000-pound animal came in the room. I said, oh, my God. I mean, I was scared. I was shaking. My knees were shaking, you know. And I didn't know what to do. You know, I had never slaughtered before. Then 2 other gentlemen came out, and they helped hoist the animal up and all. And I said, now, how do I go about all this? So I started walking towards the animal. I was saying a little dua, a little prayer. And I approached the animal, and I touched it. I was shaking, and the animal was shaking. So I patted the animal. Then I took my knife out, went around the front, and I did as the Prophet said. I said, Bismillah, and I cut. Allahu Akbar. But it was a bad cut. He said, hit it again. I hit it again, and finally I severed the jugular vein. It was one of the worst cuts that I ever did, you know. But still, it was done in the name of Allah, and that animal was halal. And they left. So then I did a lamb, and I also did a goat. I think I slaughtered there for about 3 years. So I heard about a kosher slaughterhouse in Newark. It's called Linden Packing. I said, well, maybe I'll go there and see if I can slaughter there, because it's a little closer and a little more convenient. So I went there and I approached the owner. He said, well, only rabbis slaughter here. He said, you have to talk to the head rabbi, Rabbi Kappas. So I said, Rabbi, my name is Akbar Salam, and I like to slaughter according to Islamic tradition. He said, I'm sorry, only rabbis slaughter here. This is a kosher slaughterhouse. So I said, I understand that. He said, well, most Muslims that come here, what happens is we do the cut, and they just say the little dua. He said, what they'll do is stand behind the rabbi and say, Bismillah, then the rabbi cut. Then they'll say, Allahu Akbar. I said, no, the Prophet didn't say do it that way. I said, our Prophet said, the individual who's making the cut, he's the one who says the dua. He said, I'm sorry, only rabbis slaughter here. So I said, well, Rabbi, let me ask you a question. I said, in the Middle East, I said, in Saudi Arabia, Syria, and other Islamic countries, I said, the Jews and the Muslims coexist. He said, that's right. I said, the Jews eat the Muslims' food, and the Muslims eat the Jews' food. He said, that's right. I said, well, what's the difference? He said, I said, well, I'll tell you what, Rabbi. I'll slaughter one for you, then you slaughter one for me. He said, well, why would you want to do that? He said, why don't you just slaughter one for yourself? I said, but that's the point. He said, you're a smart boy. You're a smart boy, like that. So he said, come tomorrow morning, and then you can slaughter here. So the next morning, or that night, I went home, I worked on my knife again. I sharpened my knife, made a razor sharp, took paper, and I split a hair with it. I put on a pair of old jeans and an old shirt. I said, no, I'm not going to wear this. I put on a pair of white, we call work pants. Milk white work pants, milk white shirt. I had some shine, boots on, had a hat that said halal on it, had a white coat such as this, spotless. I said, I'm going down to the slaughterhouse, I'm going to represent halal. So I went down to the slaughterhouse. It's in Newark, it was in Newark, New Jersey, and I went in, I met Rabbi Kappas. He said, you're going to slaughter first. This particular house slaughtered like maybe 1,000 animals, 500 to 1,000 animals a day. They had a capacity of 1,000 steers. But I think at this time they were slaughtering like 500 steers per day. He said, you're going to go on first. I said, okay. So as I walked through the house, I noticed all the stations. They had approximately 200 men working there. Most of them were African American. And everyone was staying there quiet. And I noticed popular rabbis here, rabbis over there, all standing there watching. So I said, well, where do I go to slaughter? They said, well, the pit is there. Okay. So I walked into the pit, and there was an African American standing there who was just washing the floor. So the Rabbi Kappas came in. He said, okay, the first animal that comes in, you can sacrifice that. I said, fine. All the rabbis came around, and they all stood watching to see just what I would do. So the first animal came in and went into the pit. Here they had an automatic lift. Animal's head went through, and lifted the neck up. I went to approach it. So the African American said, don't you want to wash your neck? I said, sure I do. He handed me a hose, so I washed the neck. That was their procedure there. I didn't know it. He said, yeah, and then I know you want to scrape it next. I said, sure do. He gave me a scraper. I scraped the neck. So then I went back inside to where I laid my knife down. And I made a quick dua. Then I came out with speed and experience. I approached the animal. Bismillah, and it rang throughout the whole facility. Best cut of my life. Severed the neck, cut the jugular vein, the 2 arteries spread, put my hand in there, felt it, make sure it was done. Beautiful cut. I said, Allahu Akbar. And the whole facility, African Americans, they all cheered. What happened was, I was the first non-rabbi to ever slaughter in this facility. I didn't realize this, but it was history being made that day. And so I said, Allahu Akbar, right. So I slaughtered. I would come in and the rabbi would say, okay, you go. Then he'll cut one, I'll cut one. And after a while, it was, the novelty of war. I was there every day slaughtering, sacrificing animals for resale and also for other Muslims who were in the wholesale business. Then I was picking out various animals in the back. So the rabbi said, well, go in the back pen and select what you want. But now, I had some kind of rapport with everyone there. I can travel, I can walk throughout the whole facility. How you doing, Akbar? Hey, how you doing this morning, Rabbi? So, everybody was relaxed. So then I would go in the back and select my own animals. So I had a little Jewish guy. He said, well, I'll come out and show you how to select animals. I said, okay. I went back there, and I noticed another African-American who was cleaning the pens. So the little Jewish guy said, well, here, take this one. I heard somebody say, so I looked at him. I said, no, that's all right. I don't want that one. So he nodded towards another animal. So I'll take that one. So he said, well, if you don't need my help, then stay here for yourself and pick out your own. I said, thank you. So he left, and then this gentleman by the name of Clarence. This gentleman, he worked the pens. He knew everything there was to know about selecting animals. I worked with him for 3 years. He taught me how to pick out choice, prime, and etc. To the extent to where, see, choice costs, like say, $2 a pound, whereas a prime may cost $3 a pound. I mean, I got so good to where I can go in and look at the animal, look at his definition, look at the sack on the neck, and say, yeah, look at his whole definition, yeah, I'll take him. And I would say every 6 out of 8 would be a choice if I wanted it. I got so good to the rabbis started saying, Abba, pick out a few choice for me, or a few prime for me. Okay. The rabbi came to me one day and said, Akbar, we have an order for specs for 10,000 pounds of livers. I have 10,000 pounds of kosher livers in the freezer. But my specs are for halal. And what I want to do is I want to sell these livers. I said, well, what does the spec say? He said, halal. I said, what do you have in your freezer? He said, kosher. I said, then you can't sell it. Not for halal. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $1 a pound. I said, no. I said, halal must be sold for halal. He said, well, I can go over in Brooklyn and buy a certificate and put it on it, and hey, it'll say halal. I said, if you do that, I said, I'll turn you into a regulatory law. So, I established respect. I had an order for like 25 animals. It was on a Monday. That Sunday, I heard Imam Mohammed was teaching in New York City. So I went over to Harlem, and the Imam was teaching about the orientation and different rudiments. And this particular lecture had an effect on me unlike any in the past. He said that the Kaaba is the root of our orientation. He started dealing with certain concepts that was relative to what I was doing in the slaughterhouse. He said, it's more dignity in taking 2 chickens and mating them and starting from that point than going out and fronting for someone else and making a lot of money. He said, you'll miss all the dynamics by doing that. He said, it's better to take the 2 chickens, he said, and merchandise them. Take the feathers, make the pillows out. He said, merchandise all the meat. He said, and take the bones and make chicken soup out of it if you have to. He said, but the point is, it's economic dignity that we're after. And you receive more by doing that than going the other way. So I said, fine. So I left the master that day, because I knew I had a big order to fill the next morning. So I went to the slaughterhouse. I went in as usual. I went in, did my cut, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and I did my split. This day I did the split. And the whole animal opened up. And a consciousness hit me. There I saw the animal perfectly displayed. I saw the liver, the spleen, the heart, the kidney, the lungs. I saw how they were displaced. I said, oh, Allah, what a beautiful creation. And you can see everything that's quivering. That day I felt this sting of the blood, the hot blood on my arm. I hadn't felt it before. But this day, I felt the sensation on my arm of the blood. I looked at the lungs. I looked at the kidneys. And then, after the animal was thoroughly bled, it went around on a conveyor. And it was skinned. My mind wanted to know, where was that skin going? The animal was skinned. The skin was dropped. It was salted down, put in an area for storage. So I asked, what's going to be done with that skin? It's going to the tannery, Seed and Leather in North Newark. This particular day, I followed the transportation to Seed and Leather. I went there. I saw that from this skin that sold for $75 to $100, they put a three-way split on the skin. And from the skin, you can make 3 leather coats. From the skin, you can get like 50 pairs of shoes. From the skin, it was leather for furniture. It was leather for hats and belts and all other utilities. Wow, this is wonderful. I said, just on that skin alone, you can make more money than selling meat to a consumer. I said, we must have our own tanning operation. I came back to slaughter another day. So I'm on now. Now I'm on my mission. See, I'm trying to find and trying to learn now why I want to learn for the establishment of the halal industry now. So another day I'm in there, I'm working, and some medical students came in. I said, what do they want? What are they here for? I said, well, the medical profession, they buy all the organs from the slaughterhouse. They buy the heart, they buy the lungs, they buy the kidneys. The medical profession is based on what? Research. The students experiment on what? Byproducts. I said, you mean to tell me that this is the basis of the medical profession? They said, yes. I said, well, what do I sell for? They said, I sell for $50 a piece. What? Yeah. They said a diseased organ sells for more than a healthy organ because a diseased organ, they take it into research. 1 foot of spinal cord sells for $20. And here, animal has maybe 20 to 30 feet of spinal cord. I said, wow, look at this. Then through research and talking to various ones in the slaughterhouse, they said the blood of an unborn calf is excellent for blood transfusion. In the experimental stage, but they say the blood of an unborn calf is excellent for blood transfusion. They said that the fluid out of the eye of an unborn calf is an excellent cure for glaucoma. I said, this is heavy. So, I wrote that down. So, they had fat, they had bone. I said, where's that fat going? Where's that bone going? So it goes to the dog food company. I said, well, where's it at? I said, Hart's Mountain. I said, okay. So one day, just so happened, they had a problem at the slaughterhouse and the owner of Hearts Mountain came down. He pulled up in a limousine with boots and dungarees on. And I was standing outside waiting, probably trying to get some fresh air or something. And he had heard that a Muslim was storing there. And he approached me. He said, I hear you storing here. I said, yes, I do. He said, well, when are some of your doors are objective? I said, one day I hope to own a facility like this. You don't want to have anything like this. I said, I hope to own a rendering plant too, like what you own. You don't want to be in this kind of business. I said, you telling me you travel in a limousine with dungarees and boots on, and you tell me I don't want to be in this kind of business? I want to be in this kind of business and this kind of business. So he went inside. But what I found out was this right here, the importance of a slaughterhouse. They had a problem there, and all your heavyweights in the Jewish community came down to see what that problem was, because they understood what the importance was. Okay? I mean, you had all your kosher manufacturers along with Hearts Mountain and also the medical profession. They were all there to see what the problem was. They resolved the problem. They all went back to their respective businesses. So I went inside, and it said I saw them loading up the dumpster with fat, bones, and other byproducts. So I waited. I said, well, it's time for me to slaughter. I said, no, I'm going to follow this truck. So I followed the truck to Hearts Mountain. And I went there, and there was an African-American there at the gate. He said, I'm sorry, you can't go in. I said, brother, I'm on a mission. I said, what I like to do is I want to find out how these byproducts are processed. Because one day, hopefully, we'll have our own. He said, okay, go in. Yeah. I went inside, and all African Americans running this business. So I asked the brother, I said, what do you, he was weighing up fat. He said, this is 35 pounds of fat. He said, 35 pounds of fat produces 1,000 bars of soap. I said, wow, the brother's making incense and making oils. I said, they have to expand their business. They got to get involved with this too. Because 35 pounds of fat only costs like, I don't think it even costs $7. It costs like, I think it was, my figure served me right, like 12 cents a pound. So whatever 35 times 12 is, that's what it costs. For 35 pounds of fat. Each bar of soap sells for around $1 a bar. Now here for a small investment, he may have sold that soap for, say, $500. But look at the investment. It's almost criminal to make that kind of money on the investment. 35 pounds of fat makes 1,000 bars of soap. They took the bone and they was making feed. Took the bone, they was making powder. Took the bone, they was making fertilizer. I said, what's that? That's for talcum powder. Out of the bone. The bone sells for like 2 cents a pound. And talcum powder sells for $1.99 a pound. Look at that market. I wrote that down. I was approached by some Japanese, and they had heard that we were working on a lab project. They stated that we have a patent on a new acid. They said that with the banning of the with the banning of the killing of elephants in Africa for their tusks, it's created a shortage in the jewelry industry. He said, but with the bones of the beef and other animals, we can take the bone and put it in this acid. The bone will, the acid will make the bones milk white and as hard as ivory. Now the bones of these byproducts have a greater value than the meat itself. And now these bones will be used for what? The corner of the jewelry industry. Wherever they were using ivory, they're going to be using bones. And the Japanese have a patent, I think, for the next 8 years on that. I said, oh, plant. I still haven't sold the meat. This is just byproducts we're talking about. And you should have cut that off. Slide one, please. Okay. And this leads us to the dust industry concept. Imam Mohammed, he gave us a concept that's turned on the minds of many businessmen in America. And we're working on the dust industry concept. Just in establishing a slaughterhouse, the slaughterhouse will produce, I would say, the dynamics will produce, I would say, at least 100 to 200 offset businesses. Just in construction, to build a slaughterhouse, you have to construct it first. Allah has blessed us with certain designs that has incorporated our insights. It's based on Idul Adha. We know each year we must offer a sacrifice. What we have done, we've developed a system that incorporates that. Rather than base it on a retail or wholesale or business aspect, the slaughterhouse will be based on a religious aspect, then it will generate money also. So based on the sacrifice, we designed a slaughterhouse. Alhamdulillah. Just in the construction alone, it's going to create jobs for brothers in construction. We're going to need finance, and also we're going to need equipment. The equipment is, and we price equipment, the slaughterhouse will need at least $750,000 in equipment. One small model, state of the art. But how we're looking at it is this way. Why not have one brother represent equipment? Why not have one brother represent finance and insurance? Let's take the construction and break it down to plumbers, electrical, and refrigeration, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have to start from a point. So rather than go and just hire someone, no, we'll give this construction to our own. With the mistakes, with the headaches and all that, we have to start. You have construction, you have finance and insurance, you have equipment. Then it goes to supplies, processing, and packaging. Just as supplies and packaging. In packaging material, the average slaughterhouse utilizes $500,000 just in paper goods per year. Why not put a brother in the paper goods business? You go to the manufacturer and you buy for us. Now they must give you that commission. We have to start. Whatever supplies we need, we break it down. We said you up with this supply, you up with that supply. The average slaughterhouse has, well, this particular slaughterhouse, it will employ, say, 150 people. One white coat per day, maybe 2 white coats per day. 5 white coats a week, maybe 10 white coats a week. Just the drilling and washing white coats and supplying white coats. Each white coat, it costs you $2.50 a piece. Just and keeping the white coats clean is a business for someone to get involved with. So, I'm kind of ahead of myself. Because I dealt with medicine, I dealt with the leather goods, the halal textile, the halal soap, the halal fertilizer. But what's unique is this. Whatever you do with beef, you can do with poultry. Whatever you do with beef, you can do with dairy. Whatever you do with beef, you can do with seafood. It's ingredients. If I can make a beef sauce, I can make a fish sauce. If I can make a beef sausage, I can make a turkey sausage. If I can make a beef sausage, I can make a chicken sausage. If I can make a beef sausage, I can make a vegetarian sausage. It's seasoning. Each one of them creates its own dynamics. Each one develops naturally. Allah has given us halal. Allah has not left us without. Just so it happened, we being cut off through our sojourn here in America, we lost connection with the natural evolution of economics. But the concept, the Kaaba as the root of our economic orientation, takes us all the way back to the origin of things. Higher el falah comes the cultivation. Imam Mohammed brought out a beautiful point. He said that Allah sent Adam down to the Kaaba. We all know that Adam was the first man. He sent Huwa, or Eve, she was set down where? At Arafat. But prior to that, as the biblical stories go, it says that Adam and Huwa, or Eve, was tricked by Satan, and they were cast down. But I'll back up a little further. And Allah creating Adam, and when Adam was there, created but still not functionable, says when the spirit or the ruh of Allah went into Adam, so his mind came on. His intellect became alive, and the first thing Adam said was, there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. So as the spirit went to Adam, the third thing he said is, I'm hungry. Allah had already created the heavens and the earth and the creation. Provision for Adam was already here. When Adam was cast down at the Kaaba, Huwa, or Eve at Arafat, Allah told Adam that when you go down to earth, I'm going to establish a covenant with you, build a house of worship on earth like unto the one in Jannah. When Adam came down on earth, Adam, along with the help of the angel Jibril, they built what is called the Kaaba. Jibril taught Adam how to circumvent the Kaaba. Adam stopped at the Yemeni corner. He offered dua, asked Allah to forgive him his sins. Allah forgave him. He then went from the Kaaba to Arafat. This is your Hajj also. There he was reacquainted with Eve, Huwa, and he told her, come back to the Kaaba. I want to show you the house of worship that we built. They went from Arafat, they stayed at Arafat all day, thanking Allah, praying to Allah. In the evening, they went to what's called Muzdalifah. There they stayed all night. They went from Muzdalifah to Mina, and from Mina to the Kaaba. That's your Hajj rights. At the Kaaba, Adam taught Huwa, or Eve, how to circumvent the Kaaba 7 times. She stopped at the Yemeni corner. She offered dua, and Allah forgave her sins. There, they multiplied. I asked the question, why was it hard? Why? I said, wow, the Kaaba is in the middle of a desert by itself. I said, there's no nourishment there, no food. Only thing there is water. I said, and then I looked at it. I said, this is the safest place for the original man to begin. Because we were weak. The creation, the lions, the tigers and all, they will overpower us in the interior. The Kaaba in the middle of the desert was safety for us. Nothing could get to us there. So as man ventured out, we would go into the interior, get our food, bring it back to the Kaaba. We would venture out, get our food, bring it back to the Kaaba. We would build an outpost, go into the interior, bring it back to the outpost, then back to the Kaaba. Then some of us went into the interior. went further into the interior, came back. Naturally, an economic system began from that point. You can see it now. You can see how man establishes trade, how man establishes his food and his necessities, just from that one point. And as it grows all the way up to modern society, man forgot the rudiments of things. Allah has blessed us how? He's given us halal, and now we have an orientation to take us back. Now we can establish this consciously. We can establish our economic base with a conscious knowledge of how it began. These are the concepts that your professors and your men of high, so-called high knowledge. But this is rudiment knowledge. This is our knowledge. I didn't mean to get off of that either. Okay, it's good. So now we can see the rudiments of our economics. Now we can see the rudiments of how Allah has taken an insignificant individual or a human being and has brought him up gradually. I was asked, what is halal? For those who do not know what halal is an Arabic word which means lawful by Allah, or it means what Allah wants. In terms of economics, halal is the Islamic system of supplying goods and services for the Muslim community and humanity at large. In other words, it's the Islamic way of doing good business. Brothers and sisters, we have a market that's untapped. Untapped. Now I'm back on my subject. 15 million Muslims strong in America and over 1 billion strong throughout the world. With America emerging as a dominant influence in the world, puts us in a unique position. Because America is establishing trade with the so-called third world. And these countries have a great demand for American manufactured products. The food industry is the largest industry in the United States in terms of employment, resources allocated to the industry, and revenue generated. Meat production represents 30% of the revenue generated in the food industry. Halal meat and poultry products are products which have been slaughtered, butchered, prayed over, and according to Islamic specifications. According to the USDA, this is law. The only two groups who can custom slaughter or slaughter according to religious standards are the Jews and the Muslims. Everyone else must stun the animal or electrocute the poultry. It's law. The only two groups who can custom kill or religious kill, slaughter, are the Jews and the Muslims. The Jews have already established kosher. They have a 2,000-year jump on us. Alhamdulillah. The slaughtering process of halal is similar to the slaughtering process of the Jews, or kosher slaughtering process. That's great. Therefore, the commercial feasibility and the technology has already been demonstrated. Since only Muslims can slaughter halal, and only Jews can slaughter kosher, there's virtually no competition in the halal industry, brothers and sisters. There is currently no major commercial producer in the United States who slaughter and process halal which strictly adheres to the guidelines. Yes, there are some halal slaughterers who are slaughtering correctly, but they don't establish. They don't control the feeding, the raising of the animals. And that's why we need our own slaughtering facility. We have to provide the goods and services that our community needs. It may seem as though I'm going here and there, but I'm going to tie it over. The banner under which we're going to establish our slaughterhouse is Muslim American Halal. We're going to make sure that the animals slaughtered will be disease-free, and every effort will be made to ensure that they have not been fed antibiotics and other non-organic additives with their feed. How do you control that? You control that with establishing feedlots. In other words, take a family, take a brother, take a family, and purchase 5 acres of land. Establish corrals or areas where you can confine the animals. And then give each family, say, 200 animals or 100 animals or whatever they can handle. Let them feed the animal correctly. Take a calf that costs, say, $75 at the auction and raise it for 6 months. And yes, the same animal that you bought for $75 will sell for $400, $500. That's commodities. You brothers who from Wall Street, hey, devise an investment package on purchasing calves. A calf that sells for $50 to $75, but sells for $500. How can we structure that to where we can invest in that? Everyone else does it but us. Our processing system will be based on our insights, accompanied by modern technology, which will enable us to produce a top quality product that will with competitive prices. The plant will serve as a prototype for future halal plants. It will serve as an incubator. And what do I mean by incubator? I mean product development. That's what I mean by incubator. Product development. We are at the beginning of a new economic revolution. We can boil some rice, boil a hot dog or a frank, warm up some beans. Halal hot dog, though. Okay? There you have a simple meal. There's worldwide demand for that meal. All you need is the proper environment to meet USDA requirements, and you can sell that meal. Imam Mohammed made a statement that he wanted to become big in the date industry. He stated that we should have dates in America all year long. So when he said that, I automatically took the product into my incubator. And I think I talked to W.D. Sharif and a few others. And we developed some date bread, date nut candy, some date jam, date nut cookies. In other words, product development. Take a raw material and develop it. I did that because I'm not in that phase of the industry, but because the Imam had said he wanted to get big in dates, I started working on the project. And now I'm going to turn it over to W.D. Sharif. Even though there's more than enough businesses to support a slaughtering and processing center, we still want to establish at least 20 to 30 more outlets dealing with wholesale, retail, and manufacturing. Jersey, New York, Philadelphia, even though I know there's some that already exist. But we want to establish outlets committed to our vision and our destiny. Each area will have its own distribution system. The halal market is divided into two segments. The first segment is the Muslim population, both domestic and international. The second segment includes health-conscious meat consumers, domestic and foreign. Once we educate the community about the halal process, we feel the support will be overwhelming. Just look at the jobs across the board. Mustafa can just go up and down at your own convenience, Mustafa. Just show those slides, okay? I'm past most of that. Okay. We have some distributors throughout America, and what we want to do is give similar workshops throughout the country and develop a system to provide the goods and services that our community needs. Concurrent with the development of the domestic market among Muslims and non-Muslims, Muslim American Halal will also develop the export markets as well. Already there have been inquiries from foreign countries. They can't wait for us to start. We started, but they want us to develop the prototypes that we've introduced to them. We've also developed an excellent working relationship with the USDA, the Commerce Department, and the U.S. Trade Development Specialists. And they have a special interest in assisting export-oriented businesses. You also have city, state, and other trade agencies. In 1986-87, an inmate in Royal State Prison by the name of Larry Peppers called me and said that I instituted a lawsuit against the state. We are being deprived of our constitutional rights by them not providing us with a halal food. They want to make us eat kosher, and Allah says in the Quran, eat that which is halal. So we talked. I became a friend of the court. And we lost the lawsuit because we didn't have the money to carry it on further. But we took the same lawsuit and we gave it to the brothers of New York City. The brothers of New York City took that same suit, and now you have halal in the institutions, city, state, and federal in New York City. That brother, Larry Peppers, he instituted the first lawsuit. They say I know him. I've never met him. Since then, we've lost contact. He probably doesn't even know that what he instituted is helping so many Muslims throughout America, really. It's millions of dollars of contracts now available in New York City because of that lawsuit. If you're a lawyer, brother, this system belongs to all of us. This is about establishing the basic services that our community and humanity at large needs, based on what Allah says. So if you're a lawyer, you should champion this cause to win lawsuits, to make a halal available not only in New Jersey, but throughout America. Make history that way. The other segment represents the non-Muslim meat and poultry consumer, include institutional and governmental users. This segment offers unlimited growth potential. Now there are military contracts, city contracts, state and federal contracts, federal government contracts, airlines. Right now, brothers and sisters, you are in a unique position. How? Because you can help tremendously. When you fly, order halal meals. When you go to the hospital, order halal meals. Wherever you go, order halal, whether you have it or not. Say, put a supervisor on the phone. I want halal. Create the demand. We can do it. I'm going to share a little history with you. There's a brother by one of my ex-partners, brother Rajan Nasruddin. He sells Lincoln and Mercury's out there on Route 22. In 1967, 68, even before, Razan took a piece of pastrami, beef pastrami, wiped all your pastrami seeds off it, washed it off, and took that to Best Provisions. He said, I want you to smoke me some navels like this. Pick a little caramel cover and put it on this, and I want that product. They said, well, what are you going to do with it? He said, just smoke it for me. Best Provisions smoked that meat for him, and that was the beginning of beef bacon in America. Razan Nasruddin is the father of beef bacon in America. He probably don't even realize, he probably forgot about it. In New York City, we have a company called Shabazz Beef Sausage. In the early 60s, am I right? Okay. Shabazz went out of business. One of the brothers, one of the ex-workers, took the recipe and went to Arnold's Sausage Company. He said, I want you to make some sausage for me. They hired the brother, took his formula and made Arnold's smoked beef sausage. They fired the brother later on, and Arnold has Arnold's beef sausage and Carolina beef sausage, two of the biggest sausage manufacturers in America right now, in Brooklyn, New York, and they got another plant in South Jersey. In 1975, Imam Mohammed said, since there are no halal plants established, he said, let's just eat beef and poultry. What we did, I said, oh my God, they're going to put me out of business because I had meat, okay? So I went and got some turkey products, and I started making turkey sausage in 1975. There were a few manufacturers, Shofar and a few other ones, who we went to, excuse me, and we said, can we make turkey bologna, turkey salami, turkey franks? No, there's no market for that. No market for that. 20 years later, what's in demand now? Turkey products, poultry products. We created that. There was no demand back then. We created that demand behind asking for turkey products. Imam Mohammed is the father of turkey products. And quite sure he realizes it. I'm not going to say he don't realize it. But we created that demand. We went to the supermarket and said, we want turkey products, we want turkey products, we want chicken products. We not having the finance to capitalize, we couldn't benefit. Louis Rich got rich. Louis Rich right now is the largest supplier in the export industry of halal products, poultry products. There's a brother in Mecca, Akbar Khan, who imports more poultry than anybody else in the world, dealing with poultry, bologna, turkey bologna, salami, and etc. I communicated and I got the turkey products for America. I said, well, what we'll do is we'll sell the turkey products domestically. We started. And what happened was the Jewish community found out, and most of us were going to the kosher markets. They took Louis Rich to court and said, if they can slaughter halal, then we must be able to slaughter kosher there. Louis Rich said it's too expensive to establish a kosher kitchen, and they canceled all domestic trade of halal poultry products in America. All they could do is export. We didn't have the money to fight them in court. I'm showing you how big this thing is. Now other companies are making halal poultry products. But once again, when you fly, ask for halal. When you travel on your planes, ask for halal. When you go to the hospitals, say I want halal. Go to the city, state, federal buildings, ask for halal. It's our constitutional right. What we need now is one of our lawyers to win this lawsuit here in the state of New Jersey. We still have the lawsuit. We need somebody to champion that cause. The federal government has contracts for qualified minority firms under the U.S. Small Business Act and Small Investment Act of 1958. over $200 billion in domestic U.S. government procurement was set aside and for qualified minority firms. Additionally, the Public Law Act 95-507 applies equally to the billions of dollars the U.S. spends annually in cash and kind in the form of U.S. government foreign aid. We qualify for that also. Last year, less than 10% of the domestic amount set aside for minorities was claimed. And only 0.5% of the money set aside for foreign aid dollars was claimed. Look at all that money there. All we have to do is to work and establish the halal industry. And that's just for minorities. We're not even going after the minorities set aside. We're going mainstream. Why? Because there's no competition. We're going mainstream. Brothers and sisters, we are in a unique position for startup businesses. Unique. We will produce a product that there's a worldwide demand for. Since when has an African American or any other Muslim been in a position to produce a product where he has worldwide demand for it? Yes, sir. There are no suppliers capable of filling the demand. Halal products are in demand by 1 billion Muslims plus. With the exception of a few small-scale localized facilities, no business exists to satisfy this demand. What we will do is set up small models that have great potential, models for duplication. If it's poultry, or if it's, say, produce, what we'll do, we have wholesale, retail, and manufacturing. In the back, we'll make baby food, halal baby food. Other products that we'll sit down in our incubator and develop. Then we'll wholesale the poultry, the produce. Then you have the retail. So those that are in produce, hey, we'll establish this model. We'll take the project in the New Jersey Muslim Business Association. We'll sit down with you, and we'll put together all the expertise to develop that model. And then once we establish that, then it'll grow naturally. It'll take on all the dynamics that the slaughterhouse takes on. Any kind of product that's rooted in the natural order of things will take on the same dynamics. It will just grow. Produce transportation, produce, you name it, it will produce it. Whatever you see in this system, it will produce that naturally. What we want is models for duplication. Each model will be the state-of-the-art operation and will grow naturally. We will have the technology to train us so that we will be able to produce top-quality products. What is also unique is that we have among us top-quality management and sophisticated professional resources already. That's among us now. And we have in place financial strategies which is as sophisticated as any strategy conceived on Wall Street. Is that right, Manir? Manir, is that right? Okay. Conceived and developed on, but still utilizing the Islamic approach to financing. What we have to understand is that the food industry is the jugular vein of America. In terms of total assets, employment, and gross business receipts, with a consumer value of over $600 billion, with meat production representing 30 to 34% of the total business receipts. Within the food industry, beef and poultry adding an additional $7 billion each year. It's constantly increasing. America has entered into what? Trade agreements with Russia, Asia, and the Middle East, and with the Baltic countries. Who's there? Muslims. Capitalism has corrupted the international trade. And now when the capitalists go to these countries, they're questioned. They're asked, what? How was the food prepared? Was Allah's name mentioned when you killed the animal? Was it prepared this way or was it prepared that way? Was this considered? Now the capitalist comes back to America, trying to figure out now how to get involved with the halal industry. They need involvement in the halal industry for what they call the new frontier, which once again puts us in a unique position. Keep in mind now that the greatest growth potential businesses are food related. Brothers and sisters, Allah has given us all these possibilities, and it's up to us now to develop and establish the halal industry. We have to appreciate working for the pleasure of Allah. When you work for the pleasure of Allah, you work for the maximum good of self and others. From 1975 to now, we were just being prepared. We were sharpening our knife. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, when you sharpen your knife, do it with excellence. So now we've been prepared for what? To receive and develop the excellence of our potential. Because we have an industry that only Muslims can generate. Yeah, you can get involved in between, but only Muslims can say that first, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. That's what starts it.